You're listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. She is passionate, direct, and sometimes a little sarcastic, but always gives you what you need to succeed in business. Now, here's your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 16, Habit Stacking to Make Routine Stick with Steve Scott. If you are an entrepreneur who wants to take consistent, massive, focused action in your business and life, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I'm really looking forward to this episode because you get to meet our guest, Steve Scott. Steve Scott is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author with over 70 books. He also blogs about habit development on his site, developgoodhabits.com. When not working, SJ likes to read, exercise, travel, and spend time with his family. When listening in on my conversation with Steve, you will discover why more than 75,000 embrace the concept of habit stacking, how you can utilize habit stacking to improve all areas of your life, ways your senses can promote positive and profitable actions, the leading issue to moving the needle and growing your business, and so much more. So let's dive right in and meet Steve Scott. Hello, Steve Scott. Welcome to Productivity Straight Talk. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on, Amber.
Oh, awesome. Well, I personally invited you, and I don't know you, but I feel like I know you. I've read several of your books over the years, and I was on your email list when you just launched your new book, Habit Stacking. And as soon as I got that email, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just shoot it off and see if he'd be a guest on our show. And I'm so happy that you said thank you, because I think this is going to be tremendous value to our listeners here on Productivity Straight Talk.
No, that's great. Actually, productivity is like one of my pretty much all-time favorite subjects to talk about. So hopefully people will get some value from this particular conversation.
Oh, that's great. So I'm happy to have you. And so before we jump into today's content all about habit stacking, I want our listeners to get to know you a little bit. And you have written so many books. How many books have you written?
I would say in total, it's over 70, but there's a lot of kind of fits and starts. There's about a dozen books that I tried to outsource / manage, and that didn't exactly go anywhere. So I would say under the Habit brand, I have about 20 plus books at this point.
Oh my gosh, that's an amazing. So I'm certain that you can teach our listeners about why I'm sure you have been able to do that with great habits. And so if that alone is not a testament to how this stuff works, that you've written 20 books and you're a content machine. So why habits? Why did you, on 20 books on habits, why is that the subject that you love to write about or you're passionate about writing about?
It's just something that really a topic I stumbled upon in late 2013, early 2014. The backstory is I started internet business back in 2004, so almost 10 years before that. And I did affiliate marketing, blogging, pretty much anything under the sun that has to do with running an online business. I tried it. And in 2012, I decided to get into Kindle publishing more as a way to generate traffic back to my blog that talked about lifestyle design and internet marketing. And I did that for a couple of years, and those books started to take off. But after a while, I would say after a year or so, I really got burnt out, and I kind of wanted to challenge myself. I pretty much said to myself, all right, I know the idea of self-publishing works, but I wonder if I just started brand new with a topic where I have no following, no background, if I actually built up a following, which is something that nothing, pretty much no email list, no website, yada, yada, yada. If I started that, would I actually achieve success with those particular books? So I sat down, I did what most people suggest when you're trying to brainstorm ideas for a blog or podcast or YouTube channel. I start with my interests. So I just wrote down all my interests. So I wrote down lifestyle design, running, and just pretty much everything under the sun. And for various reasons, I would just eliminate every one of those ideas. But I kept on coming back to the idea of habits because I felt that at some point, everything I've done well in my life can be traced back to a habit that I did on a regular basis. So it's a bit of a macro type of approach, but I'm like, what if I just talk about habits and in each individual book, I just dive into one particular habit and just see where that goes? And obviously the path has kind of changed along the way, and I've definitely deviated from my original plan, but I thought this would be a market that people would find interesting.
I think so. I would say with 20 habit books under your belt, it's been a successful that you chose habits. I know in my coaching business, as well as many of the listeners that are listening here, are always striving to create good habits, break bad habits, and stay consistent. And so I know you've got some great tips and strategies for us to do that, to, catapult our success both in our businesses and personal life. Before we jump into your book, I want to make sure that my listeners stop screwing their productivity. Want to reduce your stress? How about grow your business? Wish you had more time for family, friends, hobbies, and everything else you enjoy? Think you can't have all three? You're wrong. You just need to stop screwing your productivity. Text SCREW to 444999 to receive your free copy of 10 Ways You're Screwing Your Productivity. Or you can download your free copy at theproductivityspecialist.com/screw, SCREW. Okay, great. Welcome back, Steve. I want to jump right into, how about if you define habit stacking for our listeners?
Okay, so habit stacking is just a concept that I came up with to improve my own personal life. And just the core idea there is to take your goals, or any major goal that you want to have, you have to sit down and think about what habits or actions do you need to do on a daily basis to achieve that particular goal. And really the stacking comes down to, instead of trying to worry about 15 different habits that you lace throughout the day and just fill up your mind with a bunch of triggers and reminders and sticky notes and all that stuff that really can drive you insane if you try to do all these different habits throughout the day, you just group these habits into a routine. So basically it's habit stacking. You stack these habits together. And I've used this pretty much throughout my day. So I have an exercise habit stack. I have a productivity habit stack. I have a morning routine habit stack, and I have an evening routine stack. And just the idea there is that you're just focusing on what you need to get done and putting them all together.
I love that. So you had said you had gotten some inspiration from mini habits, so little tiny habits. Is that correct? Was your inspiration, and then now you've created habit stacking out of small little habits compounded over a routine pretty much?
Yes, actually, Mini Habits. That's a book by Stephen Geis. And initially, I didn't really quite get what he was talking about until I actually implemented it in my own life and started to really see some results. And the core idea there is that a lot of times people will be overwhelmed by a goal. And this is the idea that, all right, I will commit myself to writing 3,000 words of blog content every single day. And you might do that perfectly for a couple of days, but then you have a crappy day at the job, or just something happens in your personal life and you get home and you're just exhausted. And you look at your goal of 3,000 words and you're like, oh, there's no way I could do this today. So I'm going to take a day off. Now, what the idea with mini habits is you just set these like just super low ball goals. And the idea there is like a low ball goal of, I will write a paragraph. So there's something that you could do without fail every single day. And you'll find 9 times out of 10, once you get started, you'll consistently do more. So instead of just writing a paragraph, you'll say, all right, this is not so bad. Let me continue and work more. And just basically the idea of mini habits is just you overcome that initial resistance and procrastination that all people have when they have just a goal that just seems too daunting to do on a daily basis.
That's very true. Did everyone hear that? He said everyone, almost everybody has that. I feel like my clients talk to me and they're like, it's just me. Why can't I just get going? Why can't I stay consistent? And the truth is we need strategies to do that, because if we just try to go out and attack these large goals and kind of, I call it like yo-yo productivity, meaning yo-yo dieting, where you take extreme dieting and it never works because you can't withstand the test of time to do anything super extreme. And so doing small things compounded over time is going to get you the success you're looking for. I also like with your habit stacking and what you were saying in the book is you have to know what your bigger goals are. And then you take small, important actions on a daily basis that are going to end up getting you where you need to go.
I'm a firm believer, and it's pretty much the proof is in the pudding. I pretty much run my life by these small little actions, and they just compound over time. One of my kind of mini habits or mini goals every single day is to write 30 minutes, which isn't very long, but 9 times out of 10, I write for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes. It's just overcoming that resistance. And I just pretty much do that throughout my life with all different productivity. I just get started and usually I'm able to kind of move mountains just by daily consistent effort.
Awesome. Can you explain to us the different types of habits there are, or that you believe that there are?
Okay, in my book, I talk about 3 core different habits. So there are what are commonly known as keystone habits. And actually, that's a concept that Charles Duhigg came up with in his book, The Power of Habit. And a keystone habit is just a major habit that can positively impact many aspects of your life. So for instance, let's just say you start exercising. A keystone habit can help you lose weight. The exercise keystone habit can help you lose weight. But then as you start to lose weight and you get a little bit more fit, you start to almost subconsciously look at the different foods that you're eating and decide that, well, I don't eat these crappy foods now because it makes me feel like junk every time I exercise. So let me cut out some of this bad food. And then suddenly you're getting better sleep because you're exercising. This also improves your relationship. And then you have renewed energy at your job. So you have potentially an advancement in your career. So a keystone habit can really just positively impact multiple areas of your life. So the second type of habit are what I call support habits. So these are just the really quick and just super fast type of habits that can help your life. And that's a lot of what I talk about in habit stacking. So these are 1 to 5 minute habits that if you do on a regular basis, they can help a keystone habit. So an example is a lot of times with exercising, you might have the greatest intentions to go out and exercise outside. But then as soon as you leave work, you notice that it's raining and you tell yourself, well, it's raining today. I can't go out for a run because it's raining. So a support habit is just in the morning, you just run through a quick checklist and make sure that you look at the weather report. It's literally a 10-second habit. But if you look at the weather report and know that if it's going to be raining in the afternoon, you can maybe do it first thing in the morning or go to the gym or just make an alternative plan. Another support habit is just run through a quick checklist of all the equipment that you need. And this is something I personally go through every time I go to the gym. Once a month. I used to forget something. So now I have a really quick checklist of everything I could possibly need at the gym. So really the idea of support habit is you're fundamentally supporting the larger goals that you want to achieve or the larger keystone habits. And finally, there are what I call the elephant habits. And that comes from the old adage that how do you eat an elephant 1 bite at a time? So with an elephant habit, these are more these projects that are ongoing that frankly, you just procrastinate on. You know it's going to be unpleasant, so you just keep on putting it off. With an elephant habit, you just dedicate yourself to doing 5 to 10 minutes a day, almost like a mini habit of a larger project. So this can be done with decluttering. I did this with taxes a couple months ago. I hate tax season and it's just so many moving parts, especially when you run a business. So I just broke it down to a project and just worked at it a little bit every single day. So just to recap, so that's keystone habits, support habits, and elephant habits.
Excellent. So the support habits for me, I think are success habits, because you don't realize that to actually succeed in a particular habit, you have to set yourself up sometimes the day before or the morning before. For example, I bring my lunch to my office to eat. Now, that does not happen if I don't prep leftovers for dinners the night before, or that if I'm not proactively thinking about, okay, what's for lunch? Because when it comes to the morning and I'm getting my son out of the house and we got to get to the bus and I'm getting his lunch made, I realized I didn't have the capacity to think out proactively, what do I want to eat for lunch? So I had to move it all the way back to the previous night so that I could be successful and eat a healthy lunch during the next day. And so I would say that's a success habit that I've worked on building so that I can be more consistent with eating healthy.
That's perfect. Actually, my wife does the exact same thing. She's always prepping leftovers from the night before. Almost word for word what you just said, she does as well. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. It makes, when you eat dinner, you spend all that time cooking dinner and you know that it's also going to get you a lunch out of it. It makes me feel better about being in the kitchen, because if you know me, I don't like being in the kitchen. So that I can get 2 meals out of it is very beneficial. And then with regards to elephant habits, I believe that entrepreneurs have elephants all around them. Everybody wants to create an online product, or they have for me, I just did a huge website redesign. And I would say another big project I had was launching this podcast, and seeing that big picture and taking the time to strategize and determine how to break that large project up, and then how those actions done on a consistent basis will get you to your project. I believe that with entrepreneurs, if they don't do the elephant habits as you suggest, then they go one extreme or the other, where they're MIA out of their business because they're like, hold on, I can't do that. I'm working on this one project. And if that one project doesn't generate revenue, they're kind of in trouble, right? So I love the idea of elephant habits on being strategic about what projects you're doing and then completing them over a longer period of time.
Yeah, honestly, I do that with pretty much every aspect of my life now. I recognize that if I have to do everything at the last minute, it's going to be bad. But if I just chip away in small little batches every single day, you can get it done no matter what the project is.
Right, right. Well, next in your book, we have the 9 rules to build a stacking routine. And I'm not certain we have all the time to go through all of them, the one by one, because I want to get into the next area of your book. Anyone that's listening can definitely go to Kindle or Amazon and download the book, Habit Stacking, and you'll be able to read all of this. It's an amazing book. But can you just give us an overview of what are the rules? Why are there rules to habit stacking?
It's hard. Honestly, if you just say, I'm going to build a habit around this, the next day you'll probably forget how you're going to go about it. So I just create a simple series of rules. And then there's also a bunch of steps involved with building a habit stack. And like you said, I'm not too sure how much time we have. So I'll just kind of run through them really quickly. So first off, when it comes to the habits you want to build it or piggyback it on top of an existing habit. And this should be something that you do without fail. So an example of this is when you sit down at a computer every single day at work. If you want to build a work-related habit, maybe you just attach it to the habit of just firing up your computer. So I'm going to review my day right before I fire up my computer. That would be an example of an existing habit. And kind of one of the rules of thumb that I have is you want to make sure it's just a quick habit that's 5 minutes or less. Now, that's not necessarily set in stone. I just find that if you could build a series of small little habits in your life, that you can do a lot more instead of trying to worry about 30 to 60-minute habits. Also, another rule is that the entire routine, so entire habit stacking routine should be 30 minutes or less. That's not, again, written in stone. I just find that if you're trying to do a routine that's 2-3 hours long, you'll probably never get it done because frankly, we're all too busy. And a few other things. I talked about building daily, weekly, monthly stacks. And then finally, each habit should be a complete action. And that's just, you can't really have a exercise routine as part of a stack because you're not really getting the full benefit of the fitness program. So it's more like it would be just writing down your workout or checking the weather report, like I mentioned, or packing your bag. So those are examples of different habits related to exercising.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So one of my favorites that I use that I don't think I articulated as well as you do in the book, but I also tell my clients to, when they're trying to add something to their life or their business, such as reviewing their day. So that's a good one. I think reviewing your day is powerful in being proactive with your day and being more productive. And oftentimes I hear, well, I don't have routines. I'm not a routines person. I don't have a lot of habits. And the truth is everybody has habits. They're either working for you or against you. And I point out the habits that they either realize they have or don't realize they have. As simple as the way I come into my office every day is the same. And without stopping and pausing to think about it, I wouldn't really have realized that was a habit. And so I always look for things that are working for my clients and then say, okay, so what's just one little thing that you can add to what is already working in your business, routine, or life?
Yeah, that's perfect. Piggyback on something that's already successful with them. And you are right that we all do habits. It's either they're good habits or bad habits. Like a bad habit that I've had to break of my own is just checking Facebook and just getting upset by all the news and stuff in the world. And that's just something I'm like, this is negatively affecting many areas of my life. So let's create the habit of just not looking at my phone every single day. And the way I was able to do that was just at night, just create a simple if-then rule. At night, plug the phone into the wall downstairs. Don't touch phone until the next morning. And that saved me easily 30 to 60 minutes of just lost time, just getting upset by what's in the news.
Excellent. So that first started to break a habit for you. It first started with an awareness that there was a negative impact on your life and then making a plan for a different action to happen. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so now we're going to dive into the 13 steps for building a habit stacking routine. And this is for our listeners that they can really kind of grasp, well, we know what habit stacking is by definition, but I think that the meat of understanding it is in the 13 steps for building a habit stacking routine. So let's jump right into your first step, and that's starting with a 5-minute block.
So the one suggestion I would have, and this kind of goes back to the mini habits that we talked about before, that if you say to yourself, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do a 45-minute routine, it's going to last for a couple of days and something's going to happen and you're not going to do it. That's just human nature. We all do it. So my suggestion is to pick an area of your life that you want to improve and to start with a 5-minute block of habits. So it could just be just 1 or 2 habits that last about 2 to 3 minutes a piece, and just focus on that. Just build the momentum of doing this on a consistent basis. Now, step 2 would be focusing on small wins. So again, you want to just pick something that doesn't require a lot of willpower. So it could be things like, since we're talking to productivity and to entrepreneurs, reviewing your goals or identifying your 3 most important tasks for the day, or just getting in the habit of setting a timer every time you begin a task. Just find stuff that doesn't take a lot of willpower to start. So step number 3 would be to pick a time, location, or a combination of both when you'll complete the routine. So again, this kind of goes back to piggybacking on an existing habit. So if you know that you do a certain thing when you walk into the office every single morning, try to attach a routine to that particular action. And actually that directly ties into step number 4, which is anchor your stack to a trigger. So we just talked about walking to the office every single morning. This could also be showering, brushing your teeth, or when you check your phone, going to the refrigerator, or sitting down at your desk. Really, the only thing here is you want to make sure that this is just something that you do every single day without fail. Now, step number 5.
Just a second, Steve. There was something that you wrote, which I thought really, I've heard triggers before, but you say, my definition of a trigger is a cue that uses one of your 5 senses, sight, sound, smell, touch, or taste, which acts as a reminder to complete a specific action. And I love that you included that because it lets us get really creative about what our triggers are and what works for each individual person as a trigger.
Yeah, actually, if people are listening are really interested in that particular subject, there's 2 good books on this subject. So there is The Power of Habit that I talked about before with Charles Duhigg, and that's a lot of the information. I cited him because I just found the book to be really good as far as understanding your triggers. And triggers are important when it comes to breaking habits as well. As an example, if you know that every time you put on the commercial, you see like a beer commercial and suddenly you want to have a beer and you're trying to remove beer from your life, maybe don't watch commercials, maybe just don't watch TV for a while. It's really just kind of understanding what your breaking points are and then building to kind of designing your life around not succumbing to those triggers. And real quick, another good book on this subject is called Hooked. And I forget the author's name, but he talks about how you can design products that basically make people interested for both good and bad. And he talks a lot about triggers in that particular book. So yeah, I love the idea of triggers. And once you truly understand what your triggers are, you can find ways to build good habits and bad habits. Anyway, so let me kind of dive back into the other steps, and I don't want to take up too much time, so I'll just really run through them quickly. So step number 5 would be to create a logical checklist. And I tend to keep all my checklists in an app like Evernote, so you have it with you at all times. Step number 6 is to be accountable. So you want to make sure that people are helping you track your progress. And I just find that involving other people in your success sometimes either shames you into doing it or it kind of drives you, motivates you. So a good app for this is coach.me, and that's just, you can actually build habits, and that it's almost like a social media for people who want to build apps. So step number 7 is create enjoyable rewards, and we don't really need to dive in that. Everyone knows about rewards. Focus on repetition by never missing a day. So let's just say you have a habit stacking routine and you're just really busy and you can't do all the habits that are involved. I would say do at least 1 or 2 and just focus more on consistency instead of doing every single habit. And that really dives into step number 9, which is don't break the chain. And that's an old Seinfeld reference about how he always focused on making sure he wrote at least 1 joke every single day. So just focus on doing a habit stack no matter what every single day. Number 10 is expect the occasional challenge or setback. We all have stuff that comes up in life, so don't be discouraged. Even if you do have to break the chain, don't be discouraged that once in a while you have to miss a day. And number 11, schedule the frequency of the stack. You can make this a daily, weekly, or monthly series of actions. And then step number 12 is you can scale it up by adding more habits to it. And finally, you could build 1 habit stack at a time. So instead of just trying to do 3 stacks throughout your day, just focus on making 1 just a permanent behavior and then maybe move to other areas of your life.
Excellent. So that's 13 steps to building a habit stacking routine. But if I could rename it, and maybe that's presumptuous, but it's 13 steps to be successful with building your habit stacking routine. Really, you're setting all your readers up to be super successful with, once they have created it, implementing it, and then staying consistent with the routine over time.
Yeah, I like your title better. I might have to rewrite that section.
That's excellent. That's funny. That's funny. Okay, so now we know what habit stacking is. We know that there's 3 types of habits. We briefly went over some of the rules to creating a routine, stacking habit routine. And now you've given us the success of 13 steps to be successful with habit stacking. One of the many parts of your book is talking about career habits, which again, for me, I would retitle as productivity habits. They were exceptional. And so we're going to dive into that one section here. What is some of your favorite career habits that you would like to share with our listeners?
Okay, so first off, I'm becoming increasingly more dedicated to this concept. The idea of setting aside time for deep work. That's not necessarily something you could fit into a stack, but it's more of a mindfulness type of philosophy that when you're looking at your schedule, you want to set aside either an hour a day or a focus block in at least one part of the week where you can really dive in and to singularly focus on what is the most important aspect of your job. Now, for me, this is writing, but for maybe people out there that if you're a salesperson, you could focus on, all right, today I'm going to spend 4 or 5 hours just on making sales calls. And really the philosophy of deep work is to make sure that you're eliminating all sorts of distractions from your life. So when you're involved with your deep work, you turn off your phone, you ignore all the stuff that pops up on your computer. You're not trying to multitask. You're just focusing on getting into the zone and working on that one thing singularly.
I am so happy you chose that one. Honestly, I would say that is the leading issue to productivity, is the idea of I never have enough time. I always have so much to do, yet you're busy doing the unimportant things and never made the routine or habit to focus on what you call the deep work, the work that's going to move the needle, the work that's going to grow your business, the work that for some people means the most. And maybe that's why they even got into entrepreneurship or owning a business. And yet we find ourselves squeezing that time out over and over and over and wonder why our businesses aren't growing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the challenge that a lot of people have is they'll start their day, or at least their work day on their business. They'll answer emails for an hour. And then I'm all about keeping contact with people over email. But if I have to sacrifice an hour of book time, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to focus on writing a book. And then maybe I'll just send an apology to the person saying, hey, I'm sorry it took a couple of days to get back to you. And I know this kind of goes against the grain of you want to be super responsive for everyone in the world, but sometimes that can cut right into your ability to do the stuff that truly matters for your business. Now, another habit for this, and actually this is something that you could tie into a habit stacking routine, and this is something I make sure I do every single morning, is the idea of identifying your most important things. And this is, lots of productivity books talk about this, but I strongly emphasize doing this. So the first thing in the morning is figure out what are the 3 things that will drive your business forward. And that's just kind of asking yourself an 80-20 question. And I'm sure people have talked about in previous episodes, but the 80-20 rule is that 80% of results come from 20% of your actions. So if you start each day, just ask yourself, all right, on the list of all the things I have to do today, what are the 2 to 3 actions that can produce 80% of my business or create 80% of my income, and just focus on doing those first 3 in the morning. And for me, I always start my day with writing for an hour because I know that's the biggest driver of my success. And generally speaking, after that, it's book marketing campaigns or setting up a funnel for my business. Now, this will be different for everyone depending on what type of business you have, but just start your day by focusing on the big high leverage type of activities.
Excellent, Steve. And so you did reference saying that, and you don't know what any of my previous episodes were yet because I hadn't launched as of this recording, but I have 3 to 4, and I saw a running trend, and you've been able to keep it up. So thank you, Steve, that our most productive people that I've either interviewed, either entrepreneurs or experts, all know what their top 3 high value activities are. And many of them were talking about how they outsource or have an assistant, and they're super clear with their assistant. At all costs, you make me do X, Y, and Z. Or at all costs, if it's not 1, 2, and 3, I'm not doing it. And so to hear you give us your top 3 is phenomenal, because they're going to listen to these other episodes and know that without a doubt, without any prep from me, it's a consistent message that you have to know, and not just know, but do your top 3 high priority activities on a consistent basis.
Well, I'm glad I'm kind of keeping up with the trend here.
Right? That's awesome.
I'll just throw maybe like one more. There's a bunch of other things you do, but I would say these are the 3 things that really personally have helped me. Beyond that, and this is where you can be a little bit obsessive, but I guarantee if you do this for a year, and I've been doing this for a year, it'll give you amazing results. Track your time. I don't mean just install rescue time on your computer. I mean, take out your phone and track every single moment that you spend on your business. And actually take a step back, I would recommend creating about 5 to 15 categories for your business. I have about 12 right now. So that could be podcast interviews. That's one bucket I have. It could be answering emails, another bucket. Writing is a third bucket. Admin tasks, that sort of thing. So just kind of create a broad sense of what you do on a regular basis and put them in particular categories. And this is where it gets a little obsessive. You can go download an app called A Time Logger, and I think it's atimelogger.com. And whenever you start one of these activities, you can set a timer, and you literally just start it when you're about to begin a task and stop it when you're done. This is a little bit like the Pomodoro technique. I feel like I've kind of evolved beyond that just for my own personal use. But the idea here is you're putting time on single thing you do. And on a day-to-day basis, this might not seem important, but at the end of the week and every single month, you do a quick review of where you spent your time, and it'll just do wonders on showing you where you're kind of focusing your efforts. And for me, I have a personal rule. If I'm not spending 50% of my time on writing and book marketing, then something absolutely needs to be eliminated. So it's a real hard, fast rule with me. So again, this kind of goes back with the 80-20 rule. If you're not spending 50 to 75% of your time on those 80% tasks, then you need to eliminate something from your life.
Well said. Well said. I feel like if you can ask most entrepreneurs what they did yesterday, they couldn't even tell you. Like, their day is so busy and they're just not clear. And unless it was a specific appointment or something on their calendar, they're not really sure where the time went. And so to know that anything we want to improve on, you have to track. You have to get feedback so that you know where to make improvements on. And time tracking is essential to make adjustments in how you invest your time. So thank you for that app recommendation. I can't wait to go check it out. And everything that was mentioned in this episode will be in the show notes. So that would be at theproductivityspecialist.com/016 for this episode of 01616. And you can find all the links and anything that he recommended. And we're definitely going to be linking out to his book and Steve's website and everything like that. But before we go, I want our listeners to know how they can reach you if they want to know more about you.
Sure. Obviously, I would love if people checked out my book. So you can go to habitstackingbook.com, and that redirects to Amazon, where you can find the ebook, print, and audio version. And also, I do have a blog, developgoodhabits.com as well. You can check out the content there. And then I have my contact information on that website if you need to learn more or ask any questions.
Excellent. So listen, I want you to stop what you're doing and go download this book on Amazon Kindle. You need to go read this book and learn about the 127 small actions that you can use to create your own habit stacking routine to be more productive in business and life. So in this book, you are going to get 127 small action ideas, and we just covered 3 or 4 of them. So can you just imagine if you read this and created habit stacking routines in your life, what that can do and what transformation you would get? Well, one last thing, Steve. I want to know, how do you take consistent, massive, focused action in your business?
I build a series of habits around my life. In all sincerity, I really do. I try to identify what I need to get done and try my best to remove any sort of mental bandwidth just by turning into a habit and just creating reminders on Todoist. And when those pop up, I just follow what the instructions tell me.
Excellent. Now, I love asking my guests that question, and I had a feeling that your superpower was going to have to be habits. So thank you for sharing with our audience all about habits today. And thank you for being a guest on the Productivity Straight Talk show.
Well, thanks for having me on, Amber.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. When it comes to habits, I would probably call myself a little bit of a nerd, for sure. I am very intrigued with the correlation between productivity and habits, and not just productivity and habits, but success and habits. And I'm all about growing my business and helping you grow yours. So it's no surprise that 2 of my first 15 episodes were interviewing experts all about habits. If you missed episode number 12 with Linda Fogg Phillips, she is a tiny habits expert. That is a great combination and a different perspective on habits that if you enjoyed this episode, you will certainly enjoy that one. While I have loved having you listen to Productivity Straight Talk, I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So based on what you learned today about habit stacking and routines, what will you take action on today? Do you have a routine that could use a little bit of tweaking? Do you have a habit that you could create habit stacking on top of to create the ultimate success routine? I don't know what you exactly pulled away from this episode, but I know you pulled away with something extremely valuable to change your business and your life. And so I urge you to take action before this becomes just another episode that you listen to, just more information contributing to your information overload. I really want this time to be as useful as possible. And to do that, you have to take action. To share your actionables and receive support, guidance, and motivation from entrepreneurs just like you, join us on the inside of Productivity Straight Talk, where we have a private Facebook group of like-minded entrepreneurs who are supporting each other to improving productivity to increase profits. You can join for free by going to productivitycommunity.com. Just leave me your name and email address, and I will send you a personal invitation to join us on the inside. So that's my straight talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.